Welcome to Legal Innovation Spotlight, the podcast that brings you the latest advancements in legal tech and knowledge management. I'm Ted Theodoropoulos, and I connect with the industry's brightest minds to provide you with valuable insights and actionable takeaways. So sit back, relax, and let's dive in. Gordon, how are you this morning?
I'm doing well, Ted. Appreciate you having me today.
Yeah, I'm excited. I had Zach on, I guess it was about a year and a half ago, and we had a great conversation. The Legal Tech Fund is growing, and we're going to talk more about that. But before we do, let's get you introed. So you're a current partner at TLTF. You're serve on several boards at startups. And my favorite thing about you is you're a Tidewater, Virginia guy, man. I'm from Norfolk.
That's right. Virginia Beach native myself. Born and raised. I have two young kids and a family down here at the beach. And man, we love raising our kids here in Hampton Roads and Tidewater, and certainly in the world we live in today, where you can do that, and then also, get on a plane the next day or whenever you need to see everyone. So it's we love living at the beach.
That's awesome. Well, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about who you are, what you do, where you do it, and just a little bit about your background.
Yeah, sure. So as you mentioned, I'm a partner at the Legal Tech Fund. I'm an investor. That's my background. Undergraduate degree in finance. Started my career on Wall Street, working for a large investment bank, and then since that time, I've been investing, kind of increasingly going earlier stage as an investor, finally to where I am today and where I have the most fun. I like getting my hands dirty. I like working with entrepreneurs and founders. I like a little bit of meat on the bone. There's an idea, there's a product, there's hopefully a little bit of revenue, but the idea of rolling up our sleeves as an investor and partner to help an entrepreneur accomplish a goal, achieve a dream, it's really rewarding and fun. And the best part about it is, as an investor, you're mutually aligned there, right? And so we can spend all of our time focused on making our entrepreneurs as successful as possible, and as a byproduct, we'll benefit. But it's that journey and that growth that I really enjoy, which is where I am today here at the Legal Tech Fund.
Yeah, I mean, so Infodash is a portfolio company of TLTF. We've had a great experience working with you guys.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't need the money. Our licensing model is very cash flow friendly. More money never hurts, but it was really the intangibles that you guys bring in terms of, the Rolodex, the visibility that you have in what's going on in the space, and can really give us feedback on, hey, we're heading down this path that may be a very crowded space or soon to be very crowded. And that those intangibles I think are really important. So probably most people who listen here know TLTF, but like, what's the elevator pitch for the folks that don't?
Sure. I'll try to keep it very brief, but I like to say the Legal Tech Fund, our name is not very sexy. I don't know if my partner Zach would like me saying that, but I think it's true. But it is very intentional. We want people to know exactly who we are. And we are the first and only investment firm exclusively focused on investing at that intersection of legal and technology. Um, Fundamentally believe that technology is changing the practice of law. And then certainly some things have happened since the firm was founded in 2020, COVID being one of them, generative AI being another thing that has kind of created this huge industry tailwinds. But fundamentally, we want to be backing the entrepreneurs and founders that are disrupting the world of law. And that's simply who we are. We do that at the earliest stages, pretty much pre-seed, seed, Series A companies, and working with founders like yourselves to help you be successful.
And did you guys get lucky with, or was this intentional? I'm leaning in the camp that you guys got lucky with. Like, there is the Legal Tech Fund's been around about 4 years ish.
This is year 5.
Yeah,
Our first fund was in 2021.
So the timing could not have been any better.
You don't think we predicted this all?
I mean, maybe you did. If you did, hats off to you.
No,
but
I think we're certainly very fortunate for Well, look, I think our firm was founded on the thesis that technology was changing the industry. And you could see it happening at that point in time, whether or not it's law firms, corporate legal, or even consumers, like people's willingness to leverage technology as they were thinking about legal services. I think that motion had started. But there's no doubt that a little bit of luck here mixed in has helped support some really nice tailwinds, and frankly creates an opportunity for entrepreneurs to do something pretty special and things that maybe weren't available to them a few years ago. And so it's just an incredible time in the space, and we certainly want to be as helpful as possible to these entrepreneurs that are taking advantage of this new opportunity.
I'd rather be lucky than good, man.
That's right. No one ever accomplished anything good without a little bit of luck along the way. So
You can be
we'll take
good.
it.
You can be good all day, and if you have bad luck, it's not always going to work out in your favor. So,
That's right.
uh, what is the investment thesis there at TLTF?
Yeah. So we broadly want to invest across legal. We view this as a $1 trillion global legal services market. We'll invest domestically. We'll invest internationally. We'll invest across the major end markets of legal. And so we do think about law firm related tech. We think about corporate related tech, and we think about consumer related tech. And then the reality is, I think you can step up even a little bit further than that. We think of the modern world we live in today. Legal is the one functional area that touches every other functional area. As an enterprise, a modern enterprise, you can't sell a new customer, you can't sign a new contract, you can't put out a piece of marketing collateral, HR, finance, you get on the list. Like legal is going to be integrated into every functional area. And so that's where we want to be investing. It's the entrepreneurs, disrupting at those edges of all these different functional areas. The lens with which we take to it is legal. And that's, our view and how we plan on being as helpful as possible. And you kind of alluded to it, we can get into it, but we have a nice platform here that's friends of the firm, investors, strategics, all kind of hanging around in this ecosystem we're trying to bring together. And we can kind of leverage that to be as helpful as possible for these people that have interesting ideas of where legal intersects other things.
Yeah, the timing was outstanding, and I've been in this space for almost 20 years, and we're going to talk about this Catalyst article that I thought did a great job talking about. And not, they mentioned us, which was great, but even aside from that, it was good on its own merits. But they had a hilarious quote in there, which was, "If Rip Van Winkle woke up, the only thing he'd recognize was a law firm." Um, and that is true. That is a true statement. Now that is changing, but I thought what the Catalyst article did a good job of is describing the speed or lack of speed at which law firms have adopted new technologies. Like when I first got into legal tech, I very naively thought that I could um, help move things along by doing thought leadership and highlighting this was when the cloud was still relatively new,
Sure.
and man, it didn't work. I beat my head against a wall for a really long time. I was just too early. Now, fast forward, the good thing was that got me really prepped. So when we were a services company as AcroWire, we were doing like bespoke intranet and extranet development, and we were really pushing towards the cloud. We would always get pulled back on prem,
That's
and
right.
then finally in like 2018, 2019, we said, you know what, we're gonna roll the dice here, and we started working on Infodash, which was cloud only. And at that time, there were hardly any firms that were in SharePoint Online and M365. Maybe they had messaging
That's
in
right.
the cloud, but that's it. And there are still, I can't say that there are still. A year ago, there were still firms that were wearing the tag of we're going to be the last firm to go to the cloud as a badge of honor. Now you don't look very smart by doing that, especially with AI. It's really hard to leverage AI at its full capacity if everything is on prem. Would you
And
agree?
I mean, that's right. And that's, part of the thesis of investing in you and in your business. And you can kind of go down the line of a number of our portfolio companies. When you think about, call it the business of law side, and you think about the infrastructure within a law firm. Couldn't agree more with you and your statement of the badge of honor historically, but that is changing and it's changing quickly.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it happens overnight. And we'll, if we want to make a prediction, I'm sure there'll still be plenty of firms on prem 5 years from now, big, huge brand named law firms that we would all think of as some of the best and brightest law firms in the world. And it's not to talk disparagingly about anyone. It's the reality of these huge Frankensteins of infrastructure that have been built and these on-prem systems that work for the way that these law firms do business today. But that promise of AI, that's been the catalyst. That is what's changing everything. And really, you need that um, interconnectivity tissue where your data can be in a central place and you can build on top of that in a compliant manner and all those types of things. But that's where the promise of AI, really can deliver. And, there's some really interesting stuff being built now. But if what's the good of it if you can only get 80% of the way there, 85% of the way there, especially for a lot of clients or customers that feel good about the way things are working today generally. And I think, and we can talk about maybe what makes for a good startup or the things that we look for or not. And you talked about the industry and its pace of change. You do have to remember that two things are really important here. One, if we want to talk about law firms specifically, these are partnerships at the end of the day. And yes, they are getting more organized from a top-down perspective. And I'm not sure if the role CIO or COO existed 10 years ago. And if they did, they certainly were all held by attorneys, and that is changing. And so there's increasingly some top-down organization, but these are partnerships, and each partnership takes time to make decisions. And then also a reality of it's been an incredibly lucrative period of time for law firms, and to go in and as a startup, pitch them on why you're going to help make them better when things are pretty good for them right now. So it's there are some forces that have to be appreciated as you think about innovating and disrupting in this space.
Yeah, I mean, as Richard Susskind says, it's hard to tell a room full of millionaires they're doing it wrong, you know?
That's right.
And I actually think that the partnership model is a major impediment to innovation and scale. And it's not just the partnership model, it's the fact that they're cash basis accounting. There's very little um, adoption of R&D. So if you look at it, partnerships by themselves aren't necessarily limiting. The big four, they're partnerships. So, and they range anywhere from Deloitte at the high end around 90 billion and KPMG at the bottom end at 45 billion. So they've managed to scale, but the largest law firm on earth is K&E and they're under 8 billion. Wouldn't even qualify for the Fortune 500 if they were a public company, which they're not. So like you can scale a partnership, but it has to be, I think it's you alluded to it. It's the way that law firms empowering non-lawyers and bringing in professional management has been a challenge. There's been friction to that.
Well, it's interesting. I don't know how much time you have reserved for us today, but we could now. I'm now convinced we could spend the rest of the day. Like the topic you just brought up about the part comparing law firms to the big four accounting, and we would put consulting in that bucket too. I think they're fantastic analogies as you think about where this industry goes in the next 5 or 10 years, and you think about the role that technology plays, what that can do from a service delivery perspective, then means the role of an attorney will change, and it will increasingly be outward facing. It will increasingly be more client focused. And that type of consultative approach, results driven, is where we think the industry is heading. And it's fascinating, and it's going to be bumpy roads to get there. But we think the best law firms in the world are those that are going to take that model and approach from maybe big four, maybe some of the largest consulting firms in the world, and think about how you deliver a full scale model for your clients that is results oriented. And I think it's fascinating what this industry will look like in the journey to get to that point.
Yeah, we are getting ahead of ourselves because there's so many things I want to say right now, but I'm going to hold them off because we got a killer agenda here. So what do you guys look for in a startup? Let's kind of reel that back and like we know obviously a legal focus, and you mentioned the stage, but what are some other attributes? I mean, we are we are kind of AI adjacent. We're not at our core. That's not what we do. We enable, so Infodash, for people that don't know, it's an intranet extranet platform, and it is built on M365 and Azure, and we deploy in the client's tenant, and we have a component called Integration Hub that taps into all the back-end data sources that a law firm uses, and then presents a unified, security-trimmed API that respects ethical walls, that they can then light up all of Microsoft services like Azure AI Search, Azure OpenAI. So we enable law firms to take advantage of, and Copilot. We enable law firms to leverage the capabilities that Microsoft provides, but we're not really like an AI company, so
Sure.
to speak. So what? Yeah, what do you look? What are the key ingredients that you look for?
Yeah, you hit on something there. You talked about like the enablement of what you allow a law firm to do to leverage Microsoft and all of its capabilities. Like we would view that as a wedge, or like sometimes referred as like the tippy point of the spear. Like we want to see a company that has something that is a clear right to win, is driving a value prop for a customer, and they understand that intimately, and they want to drive it home and keep driving it home. And we're investing at the earliest stages, and we love thinking about as venture investors, businesses that can be a platform and can take over the world, and that's great. And we hope we can invest in many of those businesses over my career, our careers. That being said, the term platform gets overused an infinite amount in venture, and so many businesses never really reach that promise of being a platform, and that's okay. So we want to see like there's a clear right to win, and a wedge as to why you can sell a customer, why you can drive a value prop for someone. I'd say tech, we're certainly looking for some type of differentiated technology solution, access to data. You brought up AI. Again, we can talk all day about that as well. It's interesting. A couple of years ago, I think there was, as AI was still becoming kind of commercially available, we started seeing AI pop up in pitch decks, and it was people throwing it out there to get the AI bump. The reality is, in the world we live in today, if you're not leveraging it in some form or fashion, you're putting yourself in an extreme disadvantage. It doesn't have to be the front end of the platform, as you kind of acknowledge, like that's not exactly who you are. But if you're not weaving that into your DNA as a firm, like you're in an extreme disadvantage. The worst this technology will ever be is what it is today. It's going to be better tomorrow. And if you're not thinking about how you leverage AI, at least at a bare minimum internally to drive efficiencies, it's probably not a technology solution that we're super jazzed about partnering with. Um, I think we talked a little bit about the legal industry and some of the heritage and some of the status quo. And so we do want to make sure that we're investing in founders that are building businesses that understand that you have to fit within typically some type of distribution model. You have to fit within some type of historical way to enter these firms. And we love the brash confidence of we're going to change everything and we're going to change the model. It can be a long, lonely road to take that path. And so, a little healthy bit of that is great, but also recognizing that sometimes you can supercharge your growth by weaving into an existing distribution layer. And so we want to make sure someone's thought about that. And typically that lends itself to the human side. And that means founder market fit, someone that understands that what they're dealing with here in legal, and I think I certainly would be doing myself a disservice. Like at the end of the day, like we're investing in entrepreneurs that have an idea, maybe a little bit of traction, a product. It's if you use the horse racing analogy, you got the track, you got the horse, you got the jockey. At the end of the day, like we're writing a check to a jockey to help get this horse around the track, and there's a reality of that, and there's also not just backing a great entrepreneur and put you in that bucket of elite founders in our portfolio, but it's also life is too short. You want to work with the people you want to work with, and so there's an aspect here as well of just getting good people around the table, people we trust, people we want to be in the same room with, people we want to have dinner with, and things like that, and people that we get excited about waking up every day. to try to make you as successful as possible.
Yeah, and that goes both ways. I mean, from a founder perspective too, and I don't take it for granted that we're in a place where we don't have immediate like kind of Series A type needs. Like I feel very fortunate for that, and I know it's
You
not the
should.
norm. Yeah, I do, and when I look at like I get to I get no joke 15 to 20 emails a week from VCs.
I
It
love it.
is
I just hope
it's
you're
cra-
not spending all your days responding to this. Well, you can tell them to
I don't
send them to my
respond.
way.
Yeah, I don't respond to them at all. I can't. I could fill up my calendar with just conversations, and we don't need money. So I think that makes them try even harder. But I was initially I thought why we were getting hit up so much was because of our growth is very visible on LinkedIn. I mean, you just look at our headcount chart, right?
It's real. That
Yeah,
is, I'm surprised more founders don't take advantage of it. Honestly, and obviously, like we're sitting here today, like you are building this interconnected tissue within the industry. Your presence on LinkedIn, the employee count, as you're announcing partnerships, as you're announcing customers. I mean, it's visible, and
yeah.
that success breeds on itself. And so keep doing it. We love it.
Yeah. People, man, I don't know why. It's not hard. I was talking to Stephanie Gudos from Gunderson. She's got a great social media presence, and we were kind of comparing notes. And she's like, I never had a plan. I just jumped in and started doing. I was like, me too. Like, I didn't have a plan with this. Like, I just jumped in and said, you know what? I'm going to start writing about things that I'm deep on, that I'm passionate about, and I'm going to be authentic, and I'm going to keep at it. That was it. There
I
was
do
no,
believe in those last two pieces that you do exceptionally well. There is an aspect of just being open and vulnerable about this, and we can say the same about the things that we're doing, and the willingness to get on a forum like this and just, I don't have all the answers. Here's what we think. We're not sure. And they're informed by these things, but we rely on the help and expertise of everyone in our network, and then the wherewithal just to keep at it. I mean, I think those two things are all the difference in the world.
pushing a flywheel, man. You got to keep pushing it if
That's
you want to
right.
generate momentum. All right, let's talk quickly about the Legal Tech Lab, and then I want to get into the Law Firm 2.0. That's the really fun stuff. But the Legal Tech Lab is really interesting to me. It almost feels like kind of a Y Combinator for legal tech. Is it? Is that what it is?
That's right. It's very interesting. And I'll save the point on Law Firm 2.0 because that is a key theme of what we're looking for in the labs program. But just at a high level, yes, it's a program. Some have kind of coined it as a little bit of an accelerator. I'm not sure we know exactly what we want to call it from that perspective, but as a program, it's a platform that allows us to work with the earliest stage of entrepreneurs, those that have an idea, a deck, they have a thesis of something that they think can truly disrupt something in kind of the world we live in today of legal, and it gives us an opportunity to work with those entrepreneurs, to bring our network of advisors around the table. And we already kind of announced some that are working in the labs program with us, as well as there's a host of others that will be announced over time. But this is it's programmatic. It allows us to quickly write a small check, get on the inside, and help these entrepreneurs leverage some of our resources to hopefully get to that stage where, yes, we want to back up the truck, write a meaningful, a more meaningful check. But we think it's going to be great, and we're confident it's going to be successful. We're confident we're going to help, seed, if you want to call that, some incredible businesses. But we also know it's going to be great for the industry. Maybe some of those people that weren't willing to take that risk, I don't really know how to go out and raise capital yet. But hey, in a very short little application process, a couple interviews, is there a capacity in which we could provide our platform to bear to help these entrepreneurs? And yes, you use the analogy of YC. We think very highly of Y Combinator, as do I think most people. They've built a very special model. This is, not necessarily our take on it, but it's a version of it, and it's highly legal specific as a reminder. So the great thing is that with every single one of our businesses that comes to the labs. They benefit from every other investment we've made over the history of our firm. And all of this knowledge and expertise compounds on itself, such that our ability to be helpful for the next one is amplified. So we're really pumped. We're excited. I think within, kid you not, I think we had over 100 applications after like 72 hours of launching.
Wow.
We're kind of off to the races. It continues to compound from there.
Very cool, man. Very cool. Well, let's talk about law. We're just over the halfway point. I want to talk about Law Firm 2.0. So I've been writing about Big Law 2.0. I think I coined the term, but I'm sure somebody used it before me. But I've been really
No, let's go with
latched.
you. I like the fact that you
I
coined it.
like it too. Let's say I invented it. Um, but I've been writing about this because it's something I think about very deeply because we are 100% of our business is dependent on large law firms, and how successful or not they are in making this transition to what's coming next is also going to impact our success, right? So I see lots of barriers to getting to where we ultimately need to go, like fundamental foundational barriers. We talked a little bit about the partnership model and cash basis accounting and R&D being a foreign concept. um, I also think that what we were talking about with professional management, I posted a blueprint for Big Law 2.0, how to transition, and I think it's a good idea. I didn't come up with it myself. I stole it from somebody who was talking about it in a different context, but it's essentially where a law firm spins up a C corp. And when I say spin up, I mean separate entity, not a
Sure.
wholly owned subsidiary, separate entity, and starts investing, maybe 20% of net proceeds into building out tech enabled legal services, a delivery machine within that. And what I think the C corp model gives that the current state doesn't is, well, you typically have a lot of kind of legacy. um there's retirement obligations
Sure.
associated with the existing firm. There's all the decision making in a traditional C corp. You've got investors that elect a board that install and hold accountable management, and you have decision making that happens differently. And that management layer is empowered, right? And they're not. It won't be lawyers. I mean, there may be some lawyers in there, but it won't be exclusively lawyers like much of leadership is today in big law. So yeah, I write about it a lot. I thought that Catalyst article did a really good job writing it. What's your take on Law Firm 2.0?
Yeah, and it's fascinating. It's what we spend the preponderance of our days thinking about here at the Legal Tech Fund. Is how really what we think the future of the industry is. And I think um, the line that you took us down there was relative to call it big law and how they think about getting to the future. And I think it's going to be fascinating to see that journey. Those that are willing to make the investment, and you talked about maybe tactically some of the things they could do, and I think it's about weaving modern technology into the fabric of what they do to try to think through how do you deliver for clients in a world 5 years from now where their needs and wants are different and their expectations are far different. And I think it's going to be interesting. And we have obviously a lot of partners of ours here at the Legal Tech Fund that represent many of those big law firms. And, we want to play a role in trying to help them get there. I will say, like, we believe in, I don't know, law firm 2.5 or 3.0. Um, um, in some of that future we believe in, we're not sure that law firm is even like, they're not a firm, like they're a technology company. And, it's the incumbents, the AmLaw 200, they have every right and ability to make these investments and to own their kind of share they have. Obviously, at our end of the spectrum, we're intrigued by the companies that are starting today as a pure technology company with no law firm, no lawyer around the table, thinking through how they deliver some value prop along kind of the value chain of legal services. and maybe at the end of the line there's an attorney as needed. We're entering a new world or paradigm where there's some shifting in kind of regulatory expectations here. And do you need to be an attorney to own a law firm? And some of those, they've been breaking down internationally. They're starting to break down in certain states, and it's a fascinating time. And we've been kicking the can of how do we like organize around this and how do we talk about it. And one of the things we talked about is, the law firm 2.0, as we call it, doesn't start with a partner or managing partner. It starts with a line of code. Like it's a technology company at its ethos, and then it thinks through at the end, how do I provide that strategic level of guidance, that advisory, that consultative approach to clients. And so that's what we're intrigued by with this concept of law firm 2.0. And as we think about the labs that we just talked about, or we think about our core fund, we'd be disappointed if over half of our capital is not deployed in some version or concepts of these, types of models. And they're baby steps to get there, and we'll play along that spectrum. But this is the future, and this is what we think about all day.
Yeah. Well, here's the good news about being a tech company as opposed to a traditional business. It's the multiple. So you typically sell for a multiple of revenue instead of a multiple of EBITDA,
That's
right?
right.
So you're a finance guy. You're familiar. I've been an entrepreneur for a long time. Owned a lot of different types of businesses. My wife and I own 5 gyms here in St. Louis. Pretty successful. But if we were to sell those businesses, they would sell between 3 and 4 times EBITDA,
Yeah.
right? If we were to sell Infodash, it would sell for, in today's market, 6 to 8 times revenue, and maybe more.
Let's hope for
Um,
more. I think for more.
yeah, right. So if you do the math on that, let's say you're operating at a 20% margin, right? And you've got a $10 million business. That means you're making 2 million a year.
Yeah.
Bottom line, you'll sell it for 6 to 8,
Yep.
right? On a traditional
Sure.
EBITDA multiple. If you're 10 million in revenue and you sell for 6 to 8 times that, it's 60 to 80 million. So like, I feel like the earning potential, it's going to be a tough transition, and there's going to be much less headcount in the tech company by design, right? You're
Sure.
selling tech, not your inventory isn't people's hours, it's your tech, right? But man, that's a pretty picture. I feel like lawyers can get behind that.
That's right. You would think so, right? You can put the math on paper and explain it. I think that's right. I think your point is valid on thinking through what the market, how the market might perceive a multiple of a business at some level based on services or technology. I think what intrigues us is the ability to provide a similar service at such a higher margin, like the same unit of output, whether or not it's historic legacy expectation legal services versus call it law firm 2.0, that same unit of output should be able to be provided at a significantly higher margin. It's for all the same reasons you said, of like, repetitive, using technology and using less people and human to do that. And so we're intrigued by the opportunity, and frankly, like what that can mean for the end buyer. And especially, I think we're intrigued by what that can mean for the end consumer. Not everything we do is enterprise. So, many of it is SMB or um, consumer. And, in a world we live in today where, hourly wages are 20, $30 in this country, depending on where you are on average versus and I won't even speculate depending on, who's listening here, but what the hourly rates of attorneys are. And you kind of do the math, and legal services are largely only addressable. It's like the 1 or 2% out there, good legal services. And the promise of what the law firm 2.0 can do is it can provide access to legal services to a group of people that have never had access to good legal services. And like that's a great thing. And it's good business as well. And so we think about this. I alluded to this $1 trillion global legal services market. We think that TAM is increasing because of the law firm 2.0, and it's exciting, and it's got good implications for access to justice. It's good business, and we're excited about the role that we can play in that.
Let's talk a little bit about like consolidation, because I am I would bet my next paycheck that we're going to have a significant amount of consolidation. And one reason is the legal market, just how incredibly fragmented it is. My listeners have heard this stat many times. If you add up the revenues of the AmLaw 100,
Yeah,
it's about 140 billion. That's maybe a Fortune 150 customer. I mean,
sure.
Nvidia is 4 trillion. That's like a rounding error on the top 100 law firms, right?
Yeah.
The top 5 law firms only control about 6% of the total legal spend in the United States. The big 4 have 98% of the on the audit side of public company audit
Wow.
work.
I didn't know.
Yeah,
That's an interesting analogy there.
it's crazy. It's crazy just how different in terms of fragmentation. So, and I think that one of the reasons for all the fragmentation, one is you've only had lawyers in leadership. You haven't had a scalable business model. It's
That's
hard
right.
to scale people, and it's also really difficult when you don't bring in professional managers. Like professional management wants they want stock options. They're probably going to get paid more than your lawyers. They're not going to like that. So it's just not been a scalable. How do you see? Are we going to have in 5 years AmLaw 200? Like, what do you see that looking like?
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. I think you're absolutely right, and we can point to other industries as analogies for where this may go in legal. If you think about, let's go back 20 years, or for the past 20 years, you take healthcare as an example, and you think about kind of physician practice roll-ups and the consolidation going on in healthcare. You just talked about CPA firms, and that's maybe a little bit more of a recent, call it last 5 years or so, but very a market undergoing a significant amount of consolidation. Wealth management being another, aggregation of these platforms together. And I think we're entering a period where the next 5, 10 years will be dominated by a significant amount of consolidation in the legal world. I think the promise of technology and what that can do will allow attorneys to hopefully operate at the highest level of their capabilities, their credentials, spending more time with clients, more strategic in nature. You hopefully can deliver. Infodash playing a key role here in creating that infrastructure, the interconnectivity that hopefully should allow for easier consolidation. Attorneys can spend more time doing what they want to do, getting out of the business of law side, which probably they have less interest in doing, and that lends itself to an opportunity for consolidation. So, like, I absolutely. And then I think the biggest thing that we've kind of danced around it a little bit in the conversation is, again, we're at a point today where, for the most part, private capital has not touched law firm world. And there's a reason, and there's regulatory barriers that have prevented that. That is changing. And so, we're starting to see it. We're seeing some bankers talk about certain assets in market. We're certainly seeing some cross-border things of thinking about law firms that are merging and what role could some capital play in that. And then, I think one of the most interesting things is I don't know if we're perfect clarity yet, and we're getting our crystal ball out here, but as we mentioned, it's been an incredibly lucrative period the past 5 years for law firms, and they've been compensated for great work they're doing and delivering for clients, and certainly on the client side, there's aspirations of better service, all those types of things you expect in the industry. That being said, despite how and law firms oftentimes get dogged for being sometimes bad business. They're not good at business. Well, like, you get out of the P&L, they're pretty freaking great businesses. So they're doing something right here. But we're in a world where law firms traditionally think about the world on a year by year basis. The vast majority of profits get distributed to partners every single year. Well, private capital and private equity in particular often also gets dogged for being short term in nature. But you're talking about, when they think about the world from a 3 to 5 year period. Well, this might be the one time in history where at some point private equity is going to sit on top of legal and be thinking about the world from a longer time horizon than the underlying industry. And what that will allow people to do is make investments into things they've historically ignored. And we don't believe, or I should say, I don't believe in a world where even some of the largest law firms in the world, when one decides to take a big fat check from someone else, to make those long-term investments, to make them more competitive, to try to take more market share, that the others don't say, oh man, we should probably do the same thing. So it's a matter of time. I don't know if it's in 12 months or 18 months and when some of the regulatory stuff works itself out, but it's going to happen. And that's going to kind of usher in a period of consolidation in the space.
Yeah, so it's ABA Model Rule 5.4 that disallows non-legal ownership of law firms. So, you know what? There's a lot of complacency around that. Like, I can't tell. So, I've worked with more than half the AM law. I stopped counting at 110 AM law firms. It's definitely more than that. And so, I've had a real good cross sectional view. I got a pretty good Rolodex of people that I talk to regularly. And a lot of people point to a couple of data points that I think are somewhat irrelevant right now. Like, they say, oh, well, the Legal Services Act was 10 years ago in the UK, and that hasn't changed the market at all, right? In fact, the non-traditional, the alternative business um, entity roles have or firms have underperformed. And okay, yeah, and the big four have tried to make a push into the U.S. market before, so
Sure.
they're like, yeah, we've tried this, and eh. Well, what's different is that the means of legal production have now changed, so that completely rewrites the equation on in terms of likelihood of success. But I still hear people that I really respect that are really smart who go, yeah, but, and I feel like they think I'm over-indexing on all of this transformation talk. And I'm like, no, no, you're under indexing.
That's right.
I don't, what
And
do you think?
look, we're a biased party here, but we
Yeah.
certainly believe in that. And I think, as we've alluded to or talked about, you have to remember that, like, you're telling very successful organizations to think like, and to take that risk and challenge when life is good right now. And so we do think it's those firms that are willing to, forego a little bit extra distribution to think about those investments, and to think about, whether or not it's even they're just thinking nuclear to themselves and what they can do to make themselves more competitive. And it's those firms that are starting to make those long-term bets that we think will be most successful. Um, but it's look, I'm not trying to predict the end of the world. Like we have lots of great law firm partners. They're going to be around for a long, long period of time, maybe forever. Um, but there's almost no segment of legal services that we don't think AI and technology can play a material role in disrupting, changing the model, playing a factor there. And so, I think it's a reality. And I think to your point, I think you're naive if you really don't think that it will be perverse and it will infiltrate the entire industry. And so we hope, and we're advising our friends, like, think about this, think about what 5 years looks like, think about what 10 years, what do you, and maybe another way of thinking, I was like, what do you have to believe won't happen for you to keep with the status quo? It's just like the world's changing very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. Your point about law firm, like one law firm, once the rules change and once somebody takes some outside capital. I saw a really, the other law firms following suit. I saw a good post this morning that said law firms don't buy technology, they buy social proof. And it is so incredibly true. It really is. And you know what? As when we were first starting out and we had no legal resume, it was so hard to get conversations. Like, we had to eat table scraps, like do gigs that we really didn't want to do, that weren't in our wheelhouse. We were just trying to like earn
Yeah,
a paycheck. And then over time, we built trust and credibility. And now I can walk into any law firm anywhere and have a credible conversation because we've earned it. It took
that's right.
years. It took more than a decade. But they follow each other like lemmings, right? It's very much a peer driven dynamic where, hey, what's the firm over there doing? Oh, they're doing that. Hey, maybe we should think about doing that. It's great when you're a tech company and you've got lots of momentum because like everybody wants to have a
It
conversation.
does mean you just got to get to this one inflection point, this one bit of scale, and kind of the scales tip in your favor, and that's for sure. And again, I think it's I don't want to talk disparity. Like, people are being thoughtful, they're risk averse, they're thinking through that, and they don't want to upset the apple cart to some extent. And I think that some of that mentality is changing. I mean, we're seeing it, and the great CIOs across the country that partner with us and are thinking through how do they take their firm to the next step. And they're testing, they're innovating, they're pushing technology through, but it'll take time. There's just no doubt about it. It'll take time.
Well, that's a really good segue into maybe our final topic because we're almost running out of time. What do you think the timeline looks like for real fundamental transformation? Like, I don't think we're going to see big impact to law firm financials in 2025. I do think that we're going to start to see some of that in 2026. And it's really hard to predict
Sure.
after that, but how do you see the timeline?
Yeah, you're really putting me on the spot here as a VC predicting exactly the timing here. I don't want this to be used against me. Look, I'd say for the concept of law firm 2.0 as we see it, and people innovating out there and doing some of these things in a new way, it's here. It's now. It is absolutely happening. Now, like, a broader question might be like, where will it be seen publicly or visibly? And I think we're a little bit a ways away from that, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's just, for you or I, or more than likely your listeners that are thinking about this, we will start seeing it. But on the front of the Wall Street Journal, or people seeing it publicly or thinking about it, I think we're several years away. But we're seeing people chip away and starting some things, and people starting to try to break a little glass and those types of things. So we're seeing it. But one thing we do internally, we talk about uh, a quote from Bill Gates. It oftentimes gets changed around a little bit, but people often underestimate the change that'll occur in 10 years, but overestimate the change that'll occur in 1 year. And that kind of 10-year, like, maybe now is 5 years. Like, it's happening so quickly with the innovation. I mean, we're days away from GPT-5 coming out. It's going to be massive. I don't know. I'm not sure if I answered your question, but
I mean, there is no answer. It's just really kind of broad brushstrokes. Like, again, I don't think no impact this year.
agree with
M-
that.
yeah.
100%. And I would probably say I'm not sure we'll see an impact in any type of law firm financials. And look, these law firms are, like, they're sophisticated. They've got great people now. It's like, business leaders to partner with these attorneys, and like, the great ones are going to be taking on these things. And, like, their P&L might look different, and their balance sheet might look a little different, but many of them are going to be incredibly successful in this journey. So um, it's going to be interesting.
I just saw an update 58 seconds ago. OpenAI launches GPT-5.
All
So
right.
we're there.
How about
We're-
look at that? It's happening quicker than I said. Days. No, we're down to seconds.
it's so true. All right. Well, hey, this has been a great conversation. So first question is, how do people find out more about the Legal Tech Fund and the work that you do?
Yeah, Ted. Well, very much like yourself, we try to meet people where they are on all types of platforms. So come to our website, www.legaltech.com. We made it very easy for you with the URL. Find us on LinkedIn, find us on YouTube, and certainly find us in person. We're on the road. We're at all major legal tech conferences. Come say hi. We'd love to start a conversation.
Speaking of which, you and I are going to do a keynote presentation at the Legal Tech Connect,
That's
which
right.
which is like the sister conference to the KM&I that's been around for about 3 or 4 years. Patrick DiDomenico did a great job pulling that together, and now he's doing a Legal Tech Connect, which is it's in New York, which I think is different than you guys, and but same kind of general concept,
Sure.
bringing together investors, tech companies, and law firm people, and seeing what happens. So that'll be in October, I think.
That's right. I'm looking forward to it. And I'll even see you next week, right? Iltica.
Yeah, that's right. Good stuff. All right. Well, hey, I appreciate the time. This has been very insightful, and we'll, I guess, see each other next week.
All right, Ted, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Be well.
Thanks for listening to Legal Innovation Spotlight. If you found value in this chat, hit the subscribe button to be notified when we release new episodes. We'd also really appreciate it if you could take a moment to rate us and leave us a review wherever you're listening right now. Your feedback helps us provide you with top-notch content.